guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be doing a combined review of Nurhafsah Hamid's Dear God and Rough Diamond. My heart is like beating really fast right now. Not enough excitement, unfortunately. I have read these two back in 2020 and I have a lot to say and I have been keeping them all bottled up. I've been wanting to do a review on this because I've seen others did a review on it and I decided to revisit them. So I reread these two with fresh eyes and fresh perspective, hoping that, maybe I change my mind about it. But no. If anything, I'm actually more pissed than ever. Fair warning, if you love Nurhafsah Hamid, if you love her works, if you love anything from Iman publication, you may exit the video. You're not gonna like what I'm gonna say. I'm not criticizing Nurhafsah Hamid as a person. I don't even know her, or even online. I don't follow her online. The only thing that I know is that she's running some kind of NGO. I'm only interested in discussing the book, aka the product that she chose to put in the market. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I'm still very much learning, and if I get anything wrong, feel free to point it out to me. These books should not have been out on market in the first place. They are not fit for publishing. No one should have paid for this in the first place. I regretted paying for this. I don't think anyone should pay for it too. The only positive thing about these two and others in the series is the font space is large and the spacing is wide. You see? Like it has a big font and large spacing. So yeah, it didn't take long for me to reread this. It took me like 3 to 4 hours because I do all of the commenting and I was taking notes. Boy, did it feel like 3,000 years. These two are the worst reading experience I have ever had in my entire life. I cannot believe I paid for this. I just really cannot believe someone greenlit this and say, "Yep, good enough. Off to the printer you go." After I finished this book the first time, I went on Goodreads to make a review. I was expecting something in the lines of, at the very least, 3 stars. Wanna know how much they got on Goodreads? 4-point-something stars. These two have 4-point-something stars each. And Arafin Adiga only have 3-something. Also, I want to emphasize, if you love this book in any way, I'm not shaming you for liking them. For those unfamiliar, Rough Diamond and Dear God are sequel spin-off to Nurhafsah Hamid's debut, Letters to God. Now, I read this back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and I thought it was decent. So LTG is written in an epistolary writing, which is like writing in the form of a diary entry. It is from the main character, Sarah. She's studying law at Reading University, and the plot of this book is about her life during her studies as a Muslim girl in a foreign country, as well as learning to improve herself as a Muslim. Before I start with the other two, a short review for this one. I think this one is good enough. It's not a groundbreaking story or whatever. It's just a very simple, normal slice of life story, and the language is also very simplistic. There's nothing wrong with that. Plus, it is in the form of a diary. So, and as a person who used to write diary, I don't have the time to use flowery language in them, and usually it goes like,
Dear Diary, I saw Seaman again today. He looks so handsome. I will meet him again.
The goal of the story was simple. A girl going through life as a Muslim student in a foreign country. Although the topic itself has, potential to explore more powerful and real issue like Islamophobia, but it's okay that Nurhafsah Hamid decided not to go through that route. Not everything about Islamic fiction has to be super dramatic, and serious. We have lighthearted stories as well. Letters to God and its series is published under Iman publication. The company focuses on Islamic reading materials, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. In this case, Letters to God, it is something that I just discovered. It's called a Sharia compliant story, meaning no dating or anything that you'd expect in normal Malay novels. No touching, nada. No skinship or whatever. It's just very normal story. There's romance, but you're gonna expect something very Jane Austen-like. If you think normal Malay novels are conservative, this one and its series definitely tops it. Now, there's nothing wrong with being conservative. In a world where everyone is racing to be more westernized and more liberal, it is good to hold on to your faith in some things, and you don't have to necessarily follow the trend as long as you're not a judgmental kind of person. Plus, even without kissing scenes or touching scenes, great stories can still be told. Those things don't make good writing, they're an accessory, they contribute. With that intention, I really respect Iman Publication for their hustle. Letters to God was published back in 2018 and apparently it was a success. So the writer decided that maybe it's time for a sequel. Rough Diamond came out in early 2019 and Dear God came out later in the same year. Both novels focuses on Linda and Jonah's story respectively. Linda and Jonah were both characters that appeared in Letters to God as side characters. Other supporting characters also appear like Joss and Matbon and Gideon and others. I don't know if Nurhafsah Hamid actually planned to have a sequel before publishing Letters to God. I don't know if she's like planning the whole story like that but no, I don't think so. The thing is, with LTG being a very sweet and simple story, Nurhafsah Hamid decided to evolve on spiritual discovery, and I'm like, okay, good for her for wanting to dive deep. Rough Diamond focuses on Linda's journey in return to Islam. There are 3 reviews printed on the pages. That sounds really promising. I'm gonna read them to you. But spoiler alert, these are probably some of friends of Iman Publication staff and be like, hey, we'll give you an art copy so you can pretty please tell people how awesome we are. Thanks, bestie. Oh, I'll read them for you, okay? This one is not from a writer, from a doctor, mind you. The storyline is somewhat connected to my old past. First of all, it's redundant. The narrative was about personal journey in the search of the love of God, exhausting detailed description of life in the West with twisting soul-searching experience to reach ultimate peace in life. Seriously? Exhausting detail? You want to know what's exhausting detail about life in the West? Inspector Singh has a more exhausting detail of life in the West than this book. What this book has is a very basic and generic description of life. I can just easily switch the setting from UK to Germany to whatever because they don't really make a difference. Next, inspiring. The struggle to find peace in oneself, trust, friendship, determination, acceptance. A must-read, especially for those who have read Heaven Sent. I haven't read Heaven Sent and I don't care. But is it inspiring though? Maybe, to each its own, I guess. This review is pretty subjective, so I'd say okay. Twisting, soul-searching experience? Not really. A compelling read, gripping, engaging, and relevant. Relevant?
Are you sure about that?
Nurhafsah Hamid makes a valuable contribution to the YA genre. A contribution? I'm not sure if it's valuable though. And Rough Diamond is an essential addition to your bookshelf. No. No. And then there's a publisher's note talking about how people are raving, like how they wish they have this book when they were young, and I'm like, I have read books 10 times better than this when I was young. I remember there were Sharia compliant stories back when I was younger. It wasn't Iman Publication. I don't think Iman Publication even exists back then. They think that they're doing something new with this, but no, it's not. What they're doing is actually not new at all. We have seen this. I have seen this type of novel, only better, from Indonesian publishing, and I don't remember the name of the publisher, but back when I was in boarding school, I read a bunch of like Islamic centric novels that are actually really legit. They have legit story and they actually have legit writing. They are in BM, but still they're 10 times better than this. Like, engaging? Yeah, it engages in trying to give me a headache while reading, but yeah, sure, whatever. You might actually think, Sarah, it might just not be your cup of tea. Actually, no, this has nothing to do with my cup of tea or coffee or Red Bull or whatever. The level of bad that I encounter in this book is a level of bad that no one should pay for. If I read this book on a blog or like a platform like Wattpad, I'm okay. But here's the thing. I paid for it. This is something that is sold to customers. And the moment you make people pay for it, you have an obligation to give quality. And I'm not even talking about Booker price quality. I'm just talking about basic quality. The first thing they already got wrong with this book is the technical aspect. There are common faults that these two books has is that they have many spelling and grammatical errors. I am not kidding. I have never seen so many errors in a traditionally published. Now, if these books are published for free or self-published on Amazon or whatever, I'm cool with it. Those writers are not represented by any agency or publishing house. They're just on their own. They probably cannot afford to hire an editor, even though it is still highly recommended. Even if you're self-publishing on Amazon, you still need to invest in an editor and proofreader so people don't get migraine from reading your books. I'm not even kidding. Like, sometimes they even forgot the character's gender. Sometimes he becomes a she, and then they misspelled name so many times. Like, for a few pages, Linda's mom, her name is Lisa, becomes Lisa for so many times. Tenses are all over the place. Sometimes it's present tense, sometimes it's past tense, and there is no variety in sentence structure. Most of them are in single sentence. She barely even tried to use compound sentence, and I can see that some of these can easily be turned into compound sentence, but no, she's like simple sentence only, and she writes as if like she's trying to finish an assignment, but she's low on word count. And I swear, some of the parts of the books felt like she copy and paste sentences and paragraphs to different parts of the books. And not just that, I read these two back to back, and I swear she copied stuff from Rough Diamond to Dear God. There are even character information that is already stated in the earlier parts of the book, but then repeated again because apparently readers are stupid. So yeah. For instance, there's this one, Jonah got into an accident, and the chapter that follows the aftermath is from the POV of Imam Stevens, who visited Jonah. From his POV, we learned that Jonah suffered no life-threatening injury, but he still hasn't woke up from the coma. But then, we flash back to when Imam Stephen first reaching the hospital, meeting with Jonah's parents, and it was his parents that told him the very same information we got. This happens in both Rough Diamond and Dear God. Unnecessary repetition by assuming readers have Alzheimer's. You might seem small to you, but it's not. Because what she could have done is remove informing us about Jonah's condition from Imam Stephen's POV and just inform us of Jonah's condition through that flashback. You know, again, she is a student writing an assignment and she realized that she's close to finishing, but she still hasn't reached the minimum word count. So she repeats information throughout the book. This kind of writing, I seriously wish for amnesia. All the background information of the characters are conveyed in the laziest way possible. So much exposition line because the writer don't know how to convey information in an organic way. There is no build-up, no subtlety or subtext. This whole series is as subtle as Indonesian soap opera. If previously Adi Salman's Siapa, it's bad too, but there is a possibility that the problem does not lie with Adi Salman himself, but it's actually with Maple Comics refusing to publish the whole thing, and there are too many things that have been cut for God knows what reason. But in here, beginning with the writer whose style feels like a fanfic from AO3, although I swear there are fanfics that are actually better written than this, combined with an editor that clearly did not do his or her job well, I'm surprised that it's here in the market. And please, don't use the excuse of English not being the first language. If you're writing in a language, and whatever language it is, you are obliged to write it well. Learn the language, be good at it. Again, this is something you put in the market and people pay to read this. I don't think Nurhafsah Hamid is bad in English. She studied law at Reading University herself, which is the setting of this whole series. I just think she's a bad writer and honestly might not be much of a fiction reader. Anyone, no matter what level of language you are, the least that the writers can do is to provide you a book with good language, with correct grammar. Imagine like you have a friend who is a foreigner and that person is probably like learning bahasa and you give him a book in bahasa Malaysia that the book has really terrible tata bahasa, terrible spelling and everything, and you give it to that person who's trying to learn bahasa. Do you think it's a good thing to give it to them? No. Again, I don't think that Nurhafsah Hamid read much fiction, or at least I don't think she read the good ones, or even went to writing class, or even practice writing. Actually, it reminds me of what I wrote when I was 12. It was bad, guys. It was really bad. I'm not expecting for her to be as vibrant or her prose to be as elegant as Rani Manika or playing with suspense and subtlety like Stephen King or something or other popular authors. No, I'm just saying that she could do better if she actually do her homework. Her sentence structure are basic, really just the level of schoolgirl. She's writing in third person, which means that she has more liberty with like sentence structure and everything, and not just simply starting her sentence with she goes, she reads, she plays, he goes, he reads, he eats, and whatever. And they're mostly appeared 3 times consecutively, and she uses a lot of filter words. And what is filter words, you ask? So filter words are usually verbs that put a distance or filter the reading experience between the reader and the character. They remove the reader from the action by describing a character's thought process or action in an explanatory way. I will let Shaylin from Shaylin Write explain it to you because she actually has a degree in creative writing. So
what a filter is a form of telling. And basically what it is taking a step back from the story, and instead of directly showing us an image or a thought, first it's showing the experience of the character. But I'm gonna read a paragraph that has a lot of filters in it. Lily saw a blue pickup truck rumble down the street. She smelled the acrid exhaust. She heard rain patter against the concrete and felt it beat up on her face. She realized the street was starting to flood. Now, in that paragraph, the filters were Lily saw, she smelled, she heard, felt, and she realized. So if we're being shown something in the narrative, we don't need to know that Lily is seeing it because we know Lily is seeing it. It's being shown in the narrative. So this is that paragraph rewritten without the filters. A blue pickup truck rumbled down the street. Lily's sinuses burned from the exhaust. Rain pattered against the concrete and beat it up on her face. The street was starting to flood. It's just so much smoother. There's a lot less words, and those were just completely redundant words.
This also goes for the editor. Whoever you are, you're not doing a good job. The kind of mistakes that you fail to spot is something that even primary school students can spot miles away. Armed with a red pen, I marked everything that I find wrong like the English teacher I was, only that my students' essay are way better. At least I get paid to mark those things. I don't like writing in books, and I don't make it a habit of writing in books, especially since I have crappy handwritings, but I made an exception for this one because I don't share the same courtesy for these two, unlike the other books I have. Let me give you a preview on what I did. Rough Diamond. Dear God. Not only that I paid for these two, but I read this twice.
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
Another thing that these two books keep doing is that they do transliteration. I'm not sure if that's the correct term for it. One of the characters actually speaks kind of broken English. No, his English is not even broken. It's just he has broken pronunciation. And it's okay. What's not okay is the transliteration. When you're making transliteration, you don't need to, right after that, you translate everything. Okay, for instance, he said, Joss, the character that has like broken pronunciation, he says, I'm sorry instead of I'm sorry. When you're making a transliteration, you just stick to this. It's not necessary for you to translate it. Just say I'm sorry. We know you're trying to say I'm sorry. Because when you translate it, it takes away the immersion from the reader and it gives us headaches. My brain is still going to process this as I'm sorry. But the difference is that I can actually picture Jaws speaking in broken English. And it's okay because that's part of his character, that's part of his personality. It's fine. I have never seen authors who try to write accents or dialects, they put like translation. This is a blah 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 blah. They never do that in books. This is the first time I saw a writer actually put translation. Sorry. You don't have to do that. If you actually read other books, you know people don't do that. And then there's also some parts where they're speaking in Bahasa. And then they put translation. Again, in a novel, they want to write like, oh, the character is saying something in French or something. And then they want to translate line. They just put it underneath or at the side in italics, if I'm not mistaken. But that's usually how I see it is done. This, I've never seen it's done like this. Not only that it's ugly, but it's also frustrating to read. Now let's look at the settings and the characters, okay? The settings don't make a difference at all. The story is set in Reading University, but they could set the story in Seoul, Korea, and it still won't make a difference. The writer does not even stop to even describe the settings of Reading University to get readers to be immersed in this atmosphere along with the character. I think there's only one scene where in Dear God, if I'm not mistaken, where Nurhafsah Hamid describes autumn in reading, but that's it. Not only that it was brief, but it was also pretty much useless. And all the characters are just so gosh darn perfect. Like Sarah and Linda are so beautiful because they're Pan-Asian. Jonah is so handsome with his blue eyes, and all the characters including the supporting characters are super duper successful with high paying jobs as soon as they graduate and like with no setback in their life whatsoever. Way to be relatable to Malaysian readers, guys. Yes. Some dialogues of the characters feel like complete stereotypes because I've read some books set in the UK written by British authors and I don't remember them having love and mate as much as this one. Like, do you need anything, love? Is it too cold for your love? That's Jonah's mom, by the way. That's all lovey-dovey. But, you know, what do I know? I'm not the one studying in UK. What's even crazier for me is how the characters don't feel like they exist in this universe. The whole story feels like it exists in a parallel universe where Islam is not one of the major religions and where everyone who is not a Muslim is completely ignorant about Islam. And white people can't tell the difference between race and religion. You do know that you can write books to educate people on Islam without reducing others into bumbling stereotypes. I guess you clearly don't know. Jonah has no idea what Islam is. I don't know where he's born, probably some island in any way. When Jonah told his parents that he's reverting to Islam, his parents thought he's trying to be Chinese and Indian. That's a very stereotypical and might even be racist way to talk about white people. Even Linda's parents, when she returns home with her transformation, her mom totally freaks out. Now, surprised and weirded out, I totally understand since her family has been strayed away from Islam for a long time. Her mother's Malay and her dad is white. If I'm not mistaken, her dad is British. But in the book, the mom said that the whole family will be shunned from their high society parties because her daughter decided to wear a hijab. Linda's family is based in KL, Malaysia. No one is going to shun you for wearing a hijab. If anything, it's actually trendy that you're wearing it. When celebrities in Malaysia took the decision to wear the hijab, the public welcomes it with prayers and also well wishes for them. Is Nurhafsah Hamid even sure she got the Malaysian society right? I want to know what kind of society would shun people for wearing hijab in Malaysia. Okay, but what kind of parallel multiverse that she's referring to? Is it a different KL that we're talking about here? Other things that she could have added, some of the characters' habit, describe the taste of the food they ate and how it affects their emotion. It might not seem important, but a lot of the books that I've read, when those things are added, it really does add to the emotion to the book. It really does makes you picture it and feel it alongside the POV characters especially. And the book feels like she has a checklist on what needs to happen in order, and she's like, make Linda get rejected by Rashid, check. Make her friends abandon her, check. Move on. It's just jumping from events to events. But the most unforgivable scene for me was how they portray Sarah from Letters to God. Although she was the main character in the original, she functions as a catalyst to both Linda and Jonah's character development. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, except when you turn a relatable character in Letters to God into a Mary Sue in the sequel. Now, you must have heard the term Mary Sue, but what exactly is Mary Sue? So let me explain. So a Mary Sue is a type of fictional character, usually a young woman who is portrayed as unrealistically free of weaknesses, and it originating in fan fiction. A Mary Sue is often an author's idealized self-insertion. Mary Sue stories are often written by adolescent authors. In a story, everything is connected to the Mary Sue. Every character praises her, talks about her to the point of worship. She is an idealized version of a human being. Every villain exists only to contrast the holiness of the Mary Sue and is defeated without sacrifice by the Mary Sue. Like how Linda hated Sarah simply for existing. Some type of Mary Sue has weaknesses like being clumsy or lazy. In a good writing, those would become flaws that would eventually affect a character and plot directly to the theme. But a Mary Sue who is clumsy or lazy will never be affected by it in any way. In fact, it actually makes them more fascinating. Now, to give the character credit, Sarah still took the back seat in Rough Diamond and Dear God. However, that didn't stop the story from revolving around her, and literally all of the other characters from Linda, except for Linda from the first quarter of Rough Diamond. Everyone talk about her like some kind of angel from heaven. Example, Jonah was walking along the rows of shelves, scanning for the books that he needed when he looked up and saw a vision before him. Right in front of him was a stunningly beautiful girl jumping up and down, trying to reach for a book on the top shelf. The girl was exotic looking. She had her head covered in some kind of cloth. Her clothing was loose. She looked determined. Jonah was transfixed. Jonah had never met a girl quite like her. He was intrigued. Chris and another of his friend Jason stood beside him. They looked back and forth between Jonah and the girl that he was gaping at. Finally, Chris shoved Jonah on the shoulder. Without a glance towards Chris or Jason, Jonah walked towards the mysterious girl, leaving them behind. They rolled their eyes upwards. They knew what was going to happen. Jonah was going to work his charms on the poor girl, and she wouldn't know what hit her. They've seen it happen before, over and over again. Jonah decided to put the girl out of her misery by helping her. He reached up, grabbed the book, and handed it to her. He then casually leaned against the bookshelf and flashed his devilish smile, one that he was sure would capture her attention. Jonah found himself staring into a pair of beautiful, soft brown eyes that penetrated his soul. She has the longest sweeping lashes that he has ever seen, and flawless fair complexion. He couldn't stop staring at her. She stared right back at him. In that few minutes that seemed like an eternity, Jonah felt like time had stood still, and they were the only two human beings that exist on Earth. Jonah has read about love from the Cupid's arrow, but he had never believed such fable that originated from the Greek mythology. However, standing before this mysterious, beguiling damsel, Jonah felt as if an arrow had indeed pierced straight into his heart. His breath caught in his throat. He was smitten. Another example, see? This one is a description of Sarah from Matbon. Sarah takes her religion very seriously. She hates troubling people and prefers to be independent. She is also a person whom you can count on when you need help. She has a very generous nature. I truly understand why you are attracted to her. Sarah has this thing about her that makes everyone who knows her feel the need to take care and protect her. That is why Joss is very protective of her, and so are some of her friends. You are right about one thing though. She is not like any other girl whom you've ever met. I told you that before, remember? Obviously you were not listening. Yeah, that's a way to just having a shortcut, not giving your character a flaw. Sarah goes from being totally relatable to annoyingly perfect. What's the point of a character if you stripped off all the human things about her? And those examples are not even all. There are like a lot sprinkled throughout this book. And you know, for a book that tries to bring people closer to God, it really idolizes a woman too much. And okay, now let's talk about the subject matter, right? The reason I decided to do these books together is because they are actually just one and the same. They are not two different books. They are the same books with different genders of main character. You know how you feel like when you're playing a game and at the menu they ask you to pick your character you want to play as a girl or a boy, and then later when you play it doesn't even make a difference to the story or the gameplay? Yeah, that's exactly how it is. It doesn't make a difference whether it is Linda or Jonah. These two stories are formed on the base of the same formula, beginning along the same period of the series timeline and ending in almost at the same time, both ending at the wedding of Jonah and Sarah. Oh, in case you didn't notice, I didn't give you a spoiler warning because I just don't care. So, boring side characters, basic and generic character journey, aside from the fact that the reviews claim that this is groundbreaking.
But Sarah, you said that it's okay for a story to be simplistic.
Yes, it is okay for stories to be simplistic. But you have to also make it clear that you are being simplistic. For instance, Twilight is just a simple wish fulfillment story about a girl falling in love with a vampire and her adventure with her friend-zoned werewolf. Now, Twilight has its criticism. Even the biggest fan of Twilight, can acknowledge it. But one thing that is clear about Twilight is that it was never aimed to make a political statement or moral statement about being a strong female character or whatever. If anything, you can actually equate Bella to some female characters from those novels with a sexy cover. Now, Twilight and those novels have superficial goals, and they're not trying to pursue anything more, and there is nothing wrong with it. Because even Stephenie Meyer knows it. When all she did was writing what she loves and tap into the market that loves her for it. And I'm one of the target market. So if people are gonna attack her, they should also hate most of the writers that wrote those questy novels, because in a lot of ways, those novels are actually way worse. To put it simply, in bahasa, diorang sedar diri lah. But with Rough Diamond and Dear God, they put the review right at the beginning, building up your expectations from the story. Little did I know that I was going to be caught by a Sharia compliant novel, but whatever. For one, this book simplifies the concept of good people and bad people, not giving characters layers and complexities. One way is through makeup and natural beauty. This is how they contrast Linda and Sarah, because Linda in the beginning was someone that is like so love makeup and everything, and Sarah has always been barefaced. And then once Linda had her transformation, she's like, yeah, I'm not wearing makeup anymore. You know, here's the thing. Wearing makeup, making yourself pretty, is not a sin. The problem is when you're doing it too much to the point where you don't look like your old self. The story treats makeup as if like it's some source of evil, and gosh, that is such a simplistic view of looking into it. And Nurhafsah Hamid also doesn't really know how to talk about Islam without outright saying other culture is bad. When Jonah realizes that he's falling for Sarah, why is it imply as if like Muslim women are incapable of cheating, incapable of being a bad wife? Islam has provided guidance to be a good wife, being a good husband, in marriage and in everything, in just overall relationships in general. But That does not mean that once you become a Muslim, you are incapable of doing bad things. That will all depend on you. Islam provides the guidance, but it's still up to you whether you want to follow it or not. There are still Muslim women who cheats on their spouse. There are still Muslim men who cheats on their spouse. And by saying a woman who happens to be a Muslim is perfect, is like saying that a water that happens to be clear is safe for drinking. Yes, Islam is a way of life. There's guidance from everything, from eating to doing your taxes. But Jonah only knows the superficial thing about Sarah other than she's Muslim. I mean, sure, she might be a loyal wife, but loyalty is not the only thing that build a marriage. Loyalty doesn't guarantee happiness. If anything, it guarantees that you'll stick together towards each other, but happiness is a whole different thing. The one final issue that I have is how shallow the book explores Jonah's revert to Islam. You're talking about a person changing their whole lifestyle, and you're saying that he experiences zero setback after the Shahada? These two books, they feel like a romanticized version of a very real issue. People like Jonah mostly experience hardship during their early years as a Muslim. Now I'm not discounting that there are people who experience ease in the process, but most people do find it difficult. They explore the issue of changing your religion and overhauling your whole lifestyle in such a shallow way. It's like a touch and go kind of thing. They don't even try to delve deep. Not only insensitive, but it feels like they do not even do their research. I don't know whose story Nurhafsah Hamid is basing this on. That person is probably just one of the lucky few that has a very easy transition. I don't know if this book is meant to inspire those who are or wish to revert to Islam, but Nurhafsah Hamid did not bother to address possible issues like how would people in his life truly react to his newfound faith. Most families, especially those with Islamophobic parents, would totally freak out. Friends might even feel weird around you, and now I'm not saying that the writers should scare the readers, but instead offers a solution on how to handle this problem. Jonah's journey was far too easy. So easy. He already had a head start during his studies, and then he picked it up again with the help of a really cool imam and everything, and his parents were super duper supportive. The only time when there is a hint of a real issue is when Jonah talked about his motivation with a classmate at the Islamic Center, and this guy is doing it to marry his girlfriend, but he's feeling everything is too daunting for him. This forces Jonah to reflect whether he is doing it for himself or for Sarah. And yeah, those are the closest thing that we get to reality in this book. So those are my thoughts on Rough Diamond and Dear God. And now I can put these books out of my sight. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm just putting it on a different shelf where I don't have to look at it when I wake up in the morning. So if you somehow lasted until the end of this video without hating me, I would like to recommend the Tudung Anthology. This book contains a collection of short stories about experience of women wearing the hijab, not wearing the hijab, taking off the hijab, or wanting to wear the hijab but still afraid. And it doesn't demonize or discriminate any of those different women, because wearing a hijab is a way of getting closer to God, but it doesn't magically turn you into a good person. It all depends on you as a person. And ultimately, it's you who make your own direction in life. The book covers a spectrum of Muslims women's life in Malaysia in a way more realistic way than a hostile KL towards hijabis. And I can safely say each and every one of the 20-something stories in here are way better than these two Nurhafsah Hamid's work. Some of the authors in here are even first-time authors, and they write so well. Before I end this video, I would like to apologize if I went overboard with my words. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.